Hey guys, my name is Pixie and this is part 2 of the Offerwall tutorial. In this part, we're going to focus on using Tapjoy, which is the advertising company that will create our Offerwall. So let's head on over to the Tapjoy website and create an account. The easiest option is to skip the account creation process and log in with an existing Gmail account, just like you would do with AppyBuilder. For this tutorial, we're going to go through Tapjoy really quickly and only focus on what is necessary to complete this tutorial. Once you're logged in, you'll see the demo page. Now, obviously, creating an account doesn't magically give you $1 million in ad revenue. This is just the default overview for you to play around with and take a look at. In the top right corner, you'll see a little drop-down menu. The demo is currently selected as our active app, but we, of course, want to make our own version of this, so we need to add a new app. AppyBuilder creates Android apps, so we need to have that option selected. You can also upload an icon for this app or leave it blank. Now, I have a million different icons, so I'm just going to pick a random one just for fun. You can always change this later if you want. And now we need some basic information about our app. I'll call this app TapJoy Test App, and I'll set the orientation to portrait. Of course, you have the option of landscape or both. That's totally up to you. My time zone actually isn't on here, so I'm going to select the closest option to my actual time zone. The currency is pretty important. This is the currency that you will be paid in. It looks like Tapjoy only offers 7 different forms of currency at the moment. We'll select the first option as our usage case, and because this is a tutorial video, I obviously do not have this app published on Google Play, so I will select the checkbox option. Then we just click on this big red button that says Create Now. In order to use Enhance with Tapjoy, we need a placement name and an SDK key. But there are a couple of things we need to do first. Most of what you're about to see, you can just ignore. In the future, if you decide to use Android Studio, then you're going to want to follow all of these instructions. Because we're using AppyBuilder with Enhance, we actually don't have to worry about like 90% of this information. The monetization integration is the section we need to pay attention to. We need to create a placement and virtual currency, and we'll do both of those right now. Click on Create Placement. We need to give this a name, and I think you're allowed to use spaces, but I don't recommend spaces or special characters for the name. I'm going to call this Test Placement with no spaces and give it a simple description. When you're finished, click on Create Now. You can see that the test placement has been created. The rest of this screen can be ignored. Feel free to read this information. It's going to tell you a little more about what placements actually are, but again, since we're using Enhance, we don't have to worry about any of this information. I'm going to skip it, scroll down to the bottom, and click on Next Step. In this step, we will create some virtual currency. This is the fake money that your users receive in your app. Let's keep the option as Tapjoy Managed and make sure Android is selected. Name your currency whatever you want. Maybe you want to call it coins, points, gold, crystals, unicorns, whatever. I'm going to call mine Pix, short for Pixii, and give your currency a simple description. Now, the exchange rate is something you might want to play around with. I'm going to set mine to 10,000 Pix equals $1, and we're going to take a closer look at that exchange rate a little bit later. The initial balance should be 0, meaning that a brand new user shouldn't have any Pix when they start the app. The next option should be set to no, unless you are literally selling physical products that you can hold in your hand, or you can exchange fake money for real money. If that is the case, then you want to select yes. The age limit is up to you. I create family-friendly stuff, so I'm okay with an age limit of 13 or older. You can leave the last option blank and then hit the Create Now button. So you should now have your placement name, which is one of the enhanced requirements, and you've created your virtual currency. The rest of this page can be skipped. Scroll down to the bottom and click on Next Step. We can completely skip all of the purchase integration, scroll down to the bottom and click on Next Step. We'll do the same for push integration, scroll down to the bottom and click on Next Step. When you're finished with the setup, the only thing you really should have checked off is the virtual currency. Remember, this is all stuff you can play around with, but it's not necessary for this tutorial. Most of the information we skipped over is what you would need to do to integrate Tapjoy by hand in a professional IDE like Android Studio. If you want to go back and read the information, you can. Otherwise, just click on Start with Tapjoy. Now we've got the actual monetization overview for the app we just created. You definitely want to play around with all of these menu options on your own time just to get familiar with this website. Let's go ahead and click on placements from the left side navigation menu. There are 2 auto-created placements which we won't be using, and there's the test placement that we created ourselves. You can see that this placement is currently empty, but we're about to fix that. If you wanted to change the name or description, you can click on the little cog icon in the top right corner. Next, click on virtual currency from the left side navigation menu, and you can see the fake money that we made earlier. You can click on the little pencil icon in the far right corner if you want to make changes to this currency. Now we need to create some content for our placement. Click on Create Content from the left side menu. Some of these options like rewarded or interstitial video are already part of AppyBuilder. If you're not happy with Google or Amazon, you might consider looking into these options, but for right now, we're just going to focus on the Offerwall. The basic section is pretty self-explanatory. Deployment should be on. Give this Offerwall a name and a description. Our platform is Android. And let's assume that this is not a test device, so we won't need to check this option, but you can read more about test devices later. Next, we'll select the virtual currency we created earlier and play around with the exchange rate. Remember that I set this to 10,000 Pix equals $1. You can change this amount specifically for this offer wall or any other type of content. I'm going to keep it at the default exchange rate. The reward type determines the amount of currency the user receives after completing an offer. Default reward means that the amount will be different depending on the offer. A fixed reward means you control how much the user receives. So I could set a fixed rate of, say, 100. You just want to keep playing with these numbers until you find a happy medium. All right, moving on. So now we need to select an offer wall type. The message plus offer wall means that the user has less control when the offer wall appears. It will just appear kind of like a commercial. Personally, I don't like this option because you always want to consider the user experience, and something like that could be very annoying. I like the offer wall only option. This way the user can access the offer wall from a menu or through a button. This option allows users to select a preset color theme. You can choose whichever one you think looks nice, but I think I'm going to go with the blue one because I like the little smiley faces. You can also customize this theme in greater detail by adding your own custom color scheme and your own images. The only thing you really need to change here is the header detail. This is the title that will appear at the top of your offer wall. Below the theme is the placement where this offer wall will appear. We're going to select the test placement that we created earlier. You can also create a placement if you accidentally missed that step earlier. Now click on Advanced Settings. I'm not going to worry about targeting for this tutorial, but this is definitely something you want to play around with. You might want to set a country at least, or come back and just change these settings later. You should definitely consider the schedule and frequency based on your analytics, or if you want to control when the users have access to the offer wall. I'm not going to set a schedule, so I'll keep these options at immediately and never. For this tutorial, I won't set a frequency, but it is highly recommended that you do. So I'll leave this option as persistent on screen while I'm testing, but I'm going to go back in there and set an actual cap later. When you're done with these settings, click on the Save button. The last thing we want to do is click on Settings and then App Settings. At the very bottom, you'll see the SDK key. That's the last piece of the puzzle that we need. So you can copy this key into Notepad or just leave this tab open, but we are done with part 2. In part 3, we're going to put all of this together and then test the app. Visit my Patreon page where you can find out more about being part of the Pixie Bomb Squad. Check out the AppyBuilder Community where you can get help on projects you're currently working on and find more tips and tutorials created by community members. That's all for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to thumbs up the video and have a great day. Bye!